Okay. We had the system y equals 3x minus 4, y equals 3x plus 2. Now to put this into the form in which we can write this system as a matrix, we want to have our x coefficient here, y coefficient here, and a line here, and just a number to the right of the equal sign. So we're going to rearrange this system just a little bit. So we subtract 3 from both sides here. We get negative 3x plus y equals negative 4. Okay. And we subtract 3x from this one, we get negative 3x plus y equals 2. So that we can write our system now in shorthand notation with an augmented matrix. That's what we call this thing. And we get this and this. Okay. Now we proceed. Okay. And we're just going to follow the algorithm we did before. There are shortcuts we can take. There are other things we can do. But I'm going to keep it as simple as possible as far as our procedure. What do we want first? We want a 1 here, right? So we multiply this first row by negative 1/3. And we get 1. Negative 1/3 times negative 3 is 1. Negative 1/3 times 1 is negative 1/3. And negative 1/3 times negative 4 is 4/3. So we've got our 1, and we don't mess with our second row because we just do one row at a time. Now, what's the next thing we want? Now, you should maybe try to anticipate me here. You know, what am I going to do next? Well, I've already told you, we got the 1 here. I want a 0 here. Now, that means I'm going to have to change the second row, so I might as well just finish writing out my first row. And let's see what has to go into the second row. How are we going to get a 0 here? Well, if we add 3 times the first row to the second, okay? So add 3 times the first row to the second. Now we can write that out, but I'm not going to. Okay, I'm going to just do it one step at a time. 3 times 1 is what? 3. Added to negative 3 gives me 0. 3 times negative 1/3 is what? You should think this ahead of me, and if you don't have it, pause until you do. 3 times negative 1/3 is negative 1. And we add that to 1, what do we get? Well, negative 1 and 1 gives us 0. Now, we weren't trying to get a 0 there, but in getting the 0 here, we ended up with a 0 here, didn't we? Okay, well, let's do 1/3 of the 4/3. That gives us what? Well, it gives us 4/9, right? Now, if we add 4/9 to 2, well, there's something we probably, okay, and let's be careful. Negative 1/3 of 4/3 is going to be added to 2, right? Because we've got to add, you know, we're adding, I'm sorry, not 1/3. Okay, 3. We're adding 3 times the first row to the second. So we're doing 3 times 4/3 added to 2. Well, 3 times 4/3, again, get your fractions, is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So, yeah, did a calculation out there, said I wasn't going to, but, well, I'm not going to do them all. So we get this. Okay? Now, the next thing we might think that we want is we want to get a 1 here. So we got the 1, the 0, and we want to get a 1 here somehow. But what we've got down here is a 0 and a 6. And of course, we would get something here that's determined by whatever we would add, but it doesn't look like there's any way to get a 1. Because we'd have to do it by adding some multiple of the second row to the first. And when we did that, we'd have to have a 1/3 here. But there's nothing we can multiply this row by to get a 1/3 there. Okay? So can't be done. Can't get a 1 in the first row, second column, because the second row, second column number is 0. No multiple of 0 can be added to negative 1/3 to give us 0. So we're done. And now our system tells us that x minus 1/3 y equals 4/3, and 0 equals 6. Okay? Now this could be there are many solutions here, many x and y values that would make this true, but there's no, this is just not true. So no pair x and y satisfies both equations. No solution. And remember, this corresponded, when we graphed this, the lines are parallel, but not intersecting. Parallel lines, but they don't intersect. So there are no common points. No solution. And this process told us that that was the case, whether we graphed it or not. We know now if we did this correctly, and if we graph those equations, they aren't going to intersect, they're going to be parallel, they'll never meet. Okay. So that's one possible case.